Even when I see my bank accounts approaching scarily low levels, it's not really fazing me as much anymore, because when the provider moves, the bank account can be empty, but the bills will still be paid for somehow, okay? Hey everyone, and welcome in. My name is Tolu, and on this channel, I make faith-based videos to encourage you as you fight the good fight of the faith daily. In today's video, I wanted to talk to y'all about a topic that has been resurfacing itself often in my mind lately, and that is the topic of money. I don't know if this has been a reoccurring topic of my thoughts lately because of my situation, with being unemployed and seeing so much money leaving my bank account, especially with my recent move to a new country. And yet I'm not seeing any money going in to my bank account, like not a single penny. I'm not sure if that's why, or if it's because it just seems to be all I hear people talking about nowadays, like how you can make more money, how you should only date someone if they're making a lot of money, sprinkle, sprinkle, or how, your life could be so much better if you had a certain amount of money. And it's just like, it's just been a reoccurring topic in my head lately. And don't get me wrong, y'all, I know that money is such an important aspect of our society nowadays. Nothing is free, everything is actually so expensive no matter where you go, and we need money to survive, and it's true that the more money we have, the better our lives have the potential to be. I get that, I really do. And I'm someone that grew up in a household where there was always money struggles. And so I know how much of a difference money can make, right? But with the way I see people think and talk and act around money nowadays, it's almost as if they are truly obsessed with it. And it's as if their only goal in life is to make more money, and as if their identity is wrapped up in money, which I'm just gonna call it like it is. It's as if money has become an idol for them, which I'm sure we all know can happen very easily. And I have had to catch myself lately from falling into these same obsessive and idolatrous patterns as it relates to money. As I've been reading through the Old Testament again lately, I've been reminded of the fact that we serve a God that is jealous after us, as it says in Exodus chapter 20, verse 5. But this kind of jealousy is different from the kind that you and I might imagine, where we might be jealous of a friend because they have a new handbag. It's not like that. Rather, as I learned in my Bible study, when God says that He is a jealous God, this is more so a protective or zealous jealousy that arises when someone gives something that rightfully belongs to Him to someone else or something else. In this case, it would be our praise and our devotion and our loyalty that we can tend to quickly give away to other things when we worship or idolize them. It's taking our worship away from the one who deserves it all. And this breaks His heart with jealousy over us, and it stirs Him to anger because it threatens the holy and intimate relationship that He intended to have with us. That's why the first 2 out of the 10 commandments are related to exactly this: to avoid having any other gods before Him, and to not make ourselves idols that we'll start bowing to and worshiping. This was and is very important to God, and if you read through the Old Testament, you'll see that the one thing that would stir God to anger and that would have Him move in such severe ways, such as to destroy His own people, it was His people stepping out and serving other carved images or gods instead of Him. As I've been reading through these stories in the Old Testament, it can be really easy for me to disassociate from the Israelites as they're serving, the carved images or serving the other gods, because nowadays, while I know that there are still cultures and religions that still do this, it's just not as common, especially in Western culture. And so it can be really easy to disassociate when I'm thinking about it in that way. But at the same time, just because something isn't in the form of a carved image that's placed on an altar and being bowed down to, doesn't mean it's not an idol that is taking the praise and worship that rightfully belongs to God. You know what I'm saying? And if there is one thing that has the sneaky potential to do this, y'all, in today's day and age, it is money, okay? 100%. And heavy emphasis on the sneaky, okay? It's almost as if society has this secret but not so secret propaganda agenda, which we can also call capitalism, to push us to all become obsessed with money. And unfortunately, it seems like this agenda has very much so won. I'm sure that's why God included so many different reminders and warnings in the Bible, from verses like Proverbs chapter 23 verse 4 that says, "Do not toil to acquire wealth," to passages like Matthew chapter 6:24, which says, "No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money." In this passage, y'all, God could have made that example about anything, but he intentionally made it about money because he knows the tendency of our hearts to worship and idolize it. And imagine, he was talking to people over 2,000 years ago when he was saying this. How much more would we need these reminders now, What I really love about God, though, is that he doesn't just command us to not think about or love money without acknowledging the fact that we have very real needs that need to be provided for. He knows that we need food and clothes and shelter, but that's why he gives us verses like Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, that tell us to seek him first, and everything that we can ever need will be provided for. He knows we'll need money to survive in this world as it's currently set up, but he still calls us in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5, to keep our lives free from the love of money and be content with what we have. And why? It's because he promises that he will never leave us or forsake us. He's essentially saying that if we got him, we're gonna be all right, This reminded me of the inheritance of the Levites in the Old Testament, because they did not get any inheritance of land like the rest of the 11 tribes of Israel did, but the Lord rather promised that he would be their inheritance. And I'm sure to some, it might have seemed like they got the short end of the stick. But if we really take a step back and think about it, it is 100,000 million times better to have the creator and provider of the land itself as your inheritance rather than 200 acres of land, And in the same way, for us today, it is so much more beneficial for us to give our loyalty to the God who created us and knows our every need and promised to provide for us according to his riches and glory, rather than to give our loyalty to money that is void and will never love us back and honestly does more harm than good most of the time. So this is something I've really been wrestling with for the past few months and allowing God to work on in me. And I feel like as I've been referring back to verses like Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5, and praying about my anxieties about money, I feel like God has really been giving me a lot of peace in this area. And I know that at the end of the day, God is ultimately my provider, and he has never left me stranded in any area of my life. And I know he won't start now, okay? So even when I see my bank accounts approaching scarily low levels, it's not really fazing me as much anymore, because when the provider moves, the bank account can be empty, but the bills will still be paid for somehow, okay? So that's where I'm at currently. That's what I've been thinking about lately. And I really hope this video encouraged anyone who might have found themselves starting to fall for the schemes of capitalism and might have become obsessed with or even found themselves starting to idolize money. I don't blame you. It is nearly inevitable nowadays with the kind of society that we live in. But I hope this reminded you that while money is a means to provision, God is our actual and ultimate provider. Let me know in the comments down below if you have found yourself struggling in this area too at times, and if there are any other verses or things that you like to do to keep your eyes on and trust in God in this area. That is pretty much all I wanted to share with y'all today. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, let's keep fighting the good fight of the faith, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.